Great sense of desperation setting in, Peter. I'm not sure how else to describe it, really. The sheer magnitude of what Pakistan and the aid organizations are facing here, trying to look after as many as 3 million homeless people in really a harsh and hostile environment, don't forget. For example, there simply aren't enough helicopters to go around to move the wounded out and supplies in. And today the UN's relief coordinator, Jan Egeland, issued what really amounted to a cry from the heart. The only thing that can save tens of thousands of lives, he said, is a massive airlift, similar to the one that saved Berlin after the Second World War. The UN has so far delivered about 30,000 tents. It could use about 350,000, he said, so only a fraction of the need is being met. And as Keith Ursel from the World Food Program told us tonight, there are still dozens of villages cut off from help, and time is running out.
And when I drive for hours, I just see hours of destruction, valley after valley, plane after plane of destroyed homes, of thousands, tens of thousands of people on the move.
That's the state of affairs here, grim and pretty desperate, with aid workers now making some ominous warnings. They say at some point many of the wounded may simply have to be left stranded as they concentrate their efforts on getting supplies brought in really before the full force of winter hits.
For many, shelter was the most pressing need. A simple tent would make a world of difference. But as Paul Workman found out, for many in need, that help was a world away.
Down a long, steep Himalayan valley lies the promise of a tent. And that's where the men of Chutla village have gone, clutching little coupons handed out by the Pakistani army. But every day, the answer has been the same. There are no tents. Come back tomorrow.
From 8 October, we have not received help from anywhere. We are sleeping in open field, on the land.
You can drive at least part of the way to Chutla. And so we begin the long climb on a mountain road that's barely passable. The last couple of kilometers you have to walk, as these men do all the time.
My son had died in the school.
In the school?
Yes, sir.
Mohammed Nazir lost a son and an uncle in the earthquake. And of course, like so many of the others, his house. Places that stood for decades, that seemed strong and sturdy, now reduced to little more than a pile of stones and mud. And this villager, Mohammed Aslan, can't even get a tent to shelter his family. We're trying to control our anger, he says. The government should do something, but nobody is helping us. There's hardly a house in the village left untouched by the earthquake. This one, with its very thick mud roof, simply collapsed. Altogether, 35 people died here, 5 of them children at the local school. The helicopters fly over, but they never stop. On the way home, Mohammed Nazir stops at his son's grave. The earthquake's pain is within sight of his front door, where half a dozen of the women from the village are holding a vigil. This was a good house made of cement and stone, but the walls have partially collapsed, and going inside is simply too dangerous. As for rebuilding, Mohammed Nazir can only despair.
We are very poor men in the village, and I cannot build this house again.
The promise of a tent is at least some comfort before the snow and the isolation of winter sets in. And so tomorrow, the men from the village will once again make the long trek down the valley, as they have for the last 5 days, only to come back empty-handed.
Kashmir bore the brunt of the earthquake. There have been other quakes here along the Himalaya mountains. That's because the landmass that is India and Pakistan is slowly pushing northward into Asia. It's gradual, about 1 millimeter a week, and it's relentless, building up a geological pressure or energy that has to release. That's what causes earthquakes like this. But blessings can be found even in tragedies on the scope of this one. Little children discovered safe under the rubble. Stories of survival. And some believe this earthquake could, just could, help the cause of peace in the fractured region of Kashmir. India and Pakistan have fought over it. Many people have died over it. And as Brian Stewart explains, there have been real fears that the tension could even lead to nuclear war.
The earthquake that devastated so much of Kashmir could scarcely have struck a more tortured and divided part of the globe. For more than a half-century, it has been the rugged fault line of a profoundly dangerous international and religious conflict. Remote, mountainous, achingly beautiful, Kashmir has for decades been claimed by both India and Pakistan, who have fought repeatedly to control it, even at the risk of igniting full-fledged war on the subcontinent. Since 1989, it has also endured a three-way struggle, with Kashmiri separatists fighting for a homeland. Kashmir-born Rita Chowdhury Tremblay of Montreal is a leading scholar on the conflict.
India still considers, that it's an integral part and line of control which divides the Indian Kashmir from Pakistan Kashmir should be accepted as the international boundary. But for Pakistan, it's a very, very significant issue. For Pakistan, its own identity is intertwined with the Kashmir issues.
The claim of Pakistan, a deeply Islamic nation, is bolstered by the fact that most Kashmiris are Muslim. But India, mostly Hindu, insists Kashmir was ceded to it as part of the partition process that preceded independence in 1947. Both powers oppose independence for Kashmir. So Kashmir remains locked in the northern grips of India and Pakistan, as if frozen in history. The two countries fought over it in 1947, 48, then again in 65. Bitter skirmishes were common. Tens of thousands have died in cross-border attacks. And only 3 years ago, the two powers went on major war footing, deploying heavy forces in the region. The thought of war sparked by the Kashmir tinderbox has been a perennial nightmare for the world. For these are not lightweight powers. Both India and Pakistan have nuclear weapons and means of delivery. But in one of the good news developments in recent years, peace overtures are on the rise. Last year, Pakistan's President Musharraf visited India to start normalization of relations. Trade and travel is becoming more open. Some sense a Kashmir deal could actually soon douse the very conflict that has smoldered throughout the entire modern history of these two nations. Kenneth MacDonald, a geographer working in international development, travels frequently to Kashmir.
There are families that have been separated for 55 years now. I talked to brothers this summer, one on each side of the border who are 80 years old, haven't seen each other in over 50 years, and they want to see each other before they die. It's that kind of popular interest that's beginning to emerge in light of the diplomacy that's gone on in the last 3 years.
And now shared grief has opened the way to more cooperation. Pakistan accepted India's generous offer of aid, and relief supplies started flowing.
For relief agencies, the biggest enemies in a disaster like this may be time and indifference. The world has been slow to respond to their calls for help. Why? Some believe it's because the earthquake is the latest in a string of disasters, coming on the heels of Hurricane Katrina, the ongoing emergency in Sudan, and the tsunami off Indonesia. But as many as 3 million people were left homeless by the quake, and will probably never know how many lives could have been saved if more help had come sooner. And that's News in Review. I'm Carla Robinson. Thanks for watching. Drug trap.
I wanted to get out of it. I didn't want it anymore, but I couldn't because I was so physically addicted.
Addicted to a new and deadly drug, she almost died, but was saved by her mother.
She was filthy and she was high and
Just an absolute mess.
You good girl?
On News and Review today, Sonia's story. Hello, I'm Carla Robinson. About 5 years ago, Newfoundland was struck by a new and deadly epidemic of drug abuse. The drug was Oxycontin. It's a prescription painkiller that's sold as a time-release capsule. When used correctly, it's perfectly safe, although it can be habit-forming. But if the capsules are ground up, then snorted or injected, the drug can be fatal. In Newfoundland, there have been 8 deaths, and many others have become seriously addicted. One of those addicts was a young woman named Sonia Harvey. She almost died, but her mother Maureen saved her. She went public and forced the province to confront this deadly new threat. Here's the CBC's Linda Calvert with Sonia's story.
The man who wrote this knew what it was to suffer and to overcome obstacles. So too does the woman playing Beethoven. Sonia Harvey is addicted to Oxycontin. For 3 years, she's been trying to kick her habit.
It's overwhelming. There's times that I want to go back because of the way that I feel.
It was either go straight or die.
Streets and I'd cry and cry and cry and cry. Then I'd go home and I'd put a needle in my arm and say, God, please take me. I don't want to go through this anymore.
Sonia may never have survived but for her mother Maureen, who fought for years against the system and against Sonia herself.
I've watched my daughter go from being a normal, functioning teenager with a lot of potential and in school and had her own apartment, her own car, right down to where we literally had to cut the clothes off her because it was so dirty and she was filthy and she was high and just an absolute mess.
The drug that reduced Sonia to a mess is Oxycontin, a powerful prescription painkiller. A drug the authorities say has the province in the grip of an epidemic. Sonia grew up in the community where her family still lives, about a half-hour outside of St. John's.
She was just this chubby, fat, pudgy, sweet little bouncy kid.
1, 2, 3. Oh, Canada.
A sister Michelle soon followed, and the 2 girls were close. Maureen worked at the town hall, and Clayton was an installer for the phone company.
Coming up through school, from the time she was in kindergarten, she was in piano lessons, voice lessons.
Life is not, believe me, missing when you were born a sissy without the babe and bud.
Enjoyed those things very much. Did swimming, volleyball. Her dad coached her in volleyball up through to grade 7. Gymnastics, was a competitive gymnast who took some provincial records in different meets.
Not long after this picture was taken, though, the first sign of trouble appeared.
It was in May 1997, and I received a call from the school to say that she was out of control. She'd taken some over-the-counter prescription drugs, some Midol. Anyway, we found a baggie of pills. And I remember going up that day and my husband going into the washroom in the teacher's lounge, and she was just freaking out, curled up in there like a baby.
The next few years, her behavior swung from good to bad. By her late teens, though, things settled. For a while.
April 2002, I remember one day she came to me looking for some money. I was at my office and I was really upset because I knew she had money and she hadn't paid her rent and stuff. So she just lost it that day. She was so upset. Anyway, it was that day she told me, she said, look, I'm on drugs, I'm on Oxycontin, and the doctor's trying to wean me down from it. And I said, well, what's Oxycontin? What is it?
Maureen went home that night and surfed the internet. Oxycontin is an opiate. It's related to narcotics like heroin and morphine. It was developed to treat cancer patients and others suffering from severe pain. Not long after it hit the market in 1995, stories of addiction began to surface in the United States. By the time Maureen was learning the drug's name, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency had already attributed almost 500 deaths in 2 years to Oxycontin abuse. Although there were reports of Oxycontin abuse throughout the United States, American authorities had noticed a pattern. Illicit use of the drug was more of a problem in the East, particularly in rural communities, where drugs like cocaine and heroin are harder to get. That description fits many communities in Atlantic Canada too, particularly in Newfoundland. And so it wasn't long before abuse of the drug tracked northeast. Did she ever tell you where it all started, though?
She had been introduced to it through a friend who was eventually her boyfriend, and they had done it together. She said she started to do it once and liked it, and very quickly after that became addicted to it. And I guess then the method of trying to ingest it became more rigorous, and she no longer could she just swallow the pills to get the high. She had to snort them, and then when the snorting didn't work, she had to inject them.
You've been 27 days off Oxycontin now.
Tracy Butler is an addictions counselor in St. John's. What kind of high does Oxycontin give?
People usually describe it as the euphoria-induced state likened to that which heroin gives. They talk about a sense of well-being, they talk about sort of clarity, feeling like that they can just, in such a relaxed state, very pleasant, sometimes with warmth, just a general sense of well-being at the time. And most people would describe that, while under the influence, anything is possible.
Some addicts buy Oxycontin on the street, where it sells for up to $80 a pill. Still others steal it, either break into people's homes looking for the drug or into pharmacies. And by fall 2002, the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary was dealing with both. Meanwhile, Maureen is struggling to get help for Sonia. She takes her to every hospital in St. John's, but there is no help for this type of addiction, and Sonia's getting worse. By winter 2003, the family doesn't know where she's living anymore.
She avoided us at all costs because I think in her heart she knew things were spiraling. She was going downhill, and she had met this other guy, the guy they had done the Oxycontin together. He was addicted. She was addicted. They were trying to sustain themselves the best way they could. I came across one receipt that was for pills of $285. I'm like, where could she get the money for that? Obviously she wasn't getting it through a drug card. I'm not sure how I found out, but I surmised, and she didn't deny the fact that she was selling herself to get enough money to pay for these drugs.
I knew I was hurting my family, but I kept making rational excuses and justifying it and saying, oh, well, they don't care anyway. And I more or less justified all my actions to myself, and that's how I got through it. And I always said to myself, okay, well, I'm on the streets, you can't break.
By this time, Sonia had a $1,000 a day habit, and she took to the streets of St. John's to get the money to feed it.
I went down to work on the street about probably 16 times a day. Back and forth, back and forth. I would be in cars with men. They'd go behind buildings. I'd have to perform sexual favors for them. About 16, 17 times a day I'd have to do this with men. So I was completely selling myself every single day. I was tired. I'd be running around the house crying. There'd be blood dripping from my arm. I'd be looking for the needles. If I didn't have a needle, I'd go in the garbage and take up an old one, and if it was bent, I'd straighten the tip. I was very careless. If I could only tell you, I can't describe how bad it was because...
Desperate, her mother begs the court for help. She's tried social services, the police, hospitals, but there are few treatment facilities and little help for Oxycontin addicts in Newfoundland. By now, Maureen has gone public with her story, so cameras capture her plea when she asks a judge to find a way to force Sonia, sentence her to treatment.
I wanted to get out of it. I didn't want it anymore, but I couldn't because I was so physically addicted. Like, I couldn't bend my fingers without it. It was to the point, like, I couldn't do anything without it, so the only way that I would ever have been possible to get off it is to do what was done to me, to throw me in jail and then send me to rehab. If they hadn't have done that, I'd be dead now. Because I couldn't do it myself, even though I wanted it, and I didn't want to work the streets every day. I'd cry all the time. I just couldn't do it. And my mom more or less said to the judge, look, if you let her go, she's going to die. And which was very, very true. I was like 80 pounds. I was dirty. I was sick. I was at my really, really, really low rock bottom.
Sonia starts her treatment Christmas Day in Montreal.
Hi, Mom. I just wanted to say hello and I love you.
But it isn't easy. Oxycontin has a powerful hold.
When I was in Montreal, I went out and I relapsed after everything that I've been through. And then I went to New Brunswick in rehab, and I came home and I relapsed for 3 months. That's not to say that I wanted to, but I've been using opiates from such a young age that they say it's like a door, and people usually that use it's half open. Mine was off the hinges. So they needed to put me on methadone. This is as good as what my arms are going to get. They're not going to get any better than that, and you probably can't see the ones that are here, but they go all up my arms. And that's a constant reminder every day. When I was in treatment, I've done a lot of writing, and this is one of my favorite poems. It's short, but it's good. It kind of describes my life a little bit. For the day is past and the
Sonia's
night is
been clean
here,
for
I
3
am one
months
day
now.
closer
She
to
credits
an MC.
methadone and
I
other
haven't
addicts.
used in a good
Like her mother,
50
she's
years,
decided to
so
go
I felt
public.
there was no
She now
dosage
counsels
fee.
addicts,
Her
mostly
arms
by
were
telling them
destroyed.
about
She
her
had not a
ordeal.
parasite. I love it. And I think that's what keeps me clean. That's what keeps my sobriety. For me, I need to, like I said, I always need to please people. I always need their approval. And for me to be able to go out and sit down and talk to kids and actually have impact on their lives and have them go to rehab because of what I said makes me feel like $1 million, no money in the world, whatever give me the feeling that I get when I help somebody. And it keeps me sober too. Like that's what me making other people feel good makes me